Icebreaker, so there won't be any buzzing. And Toastmaster Nadine Martin has been a member since June, and she's currently on the Learning Path Presentation Mastery. Today she'll be giving her Icebreaker speech entitled, How Moving to America as a Teenager Altered My Brain Chemistry. Help me welcome to the lectern, Nadine Martin.
A question I get asked a lot when people first meet me is, do you like living in Florida? And I can honestly say no. At one point, I did not like living here. In fact, I hated Florida. But to understand why I once felt that way, you would need to know how I got here and why. I was born in London, England, to two immigrant parents. My mother is from Antigua and my father is Jamaican. London was all I knew as a first-generation Brit, and I loved everything about it. The food, the busyness of central London on the weekends, the amalgamation of different cultures, even the noise of the traffic outside of my bedroom window. As cliche as this sounds, it would literally soothe me to sleep at night. London was all I had known, and it was at the core of my being. My parents' relationship started to crack, and by the time I was 7 years old, they decided to split. My father is a US dual citizen, and at the time of their breakup, he and my mother were in the process of moving my family over to sunny Florida. My parents were halfway through building a house in Waterford Lakes, and the paperwork had been filed for me and my 4 siblings. As you can imagine, their split changed the trajectory of our lives. My father still decided to move to the States, but before he left, he promised me that he would send for me to move to America once I had finished secondary school, which meant I would be moving at the age of 16. As a child, I really struggled with not having my dad in the house anymore. But the good thing about having a father who lives in Orlando is that you get to go to Disney World when you visit. I visited him every summer, and we ran our Disney passes into the ground. As a 9-year-old, I remember going back to school after the summer holidays and bragging to my friends about all the Disney characters I got to meet, how many life-size Disney toys I got, and how much McDonald's I got to stuff my face with. My friends would, as a 9-year-old, I would tell my friends about my experiences, and they would gasp when I would tell them about the supersized American portions. I would tell them how a small meal in America is the size of a large one in England, and that the large of the sweet teacups were bigger than my head. The time finally came for me to move to Florida, and visiting Florida versus living in Florida were two very different experiences for me. Not only did I leave behind everything I had known my entire life, but I left behind my mother and 3 of my 4 siblings. My older sister moved to America when I was 12 years old. I still remember my first day of high school as if it were yesterday. To say that I experienced a culture shock is a massive understatement. I nervously clambered up the steps of the big yellow school bus and was met with stares, murmurs, and giggles as I frantically searched for an open seat. Within seconds of sitting down, one of the cool kids, George, walked from the back of the bus, leaned over my seat from behind, and started grilling me. "What's your name? What school did you come from? Wait, are you British?" As soon as he announced this, everything changed. Within moments, I was being surrounded and bombarded with questions. Some of the more interesting questions I was asked during my time in high school were, "Have you had tea with the Queen?" "There's black people in England?" And my personal favorite, "What language do y'all speak over there?" These are real questions I was asked. I promise you I'm not making this up. This happened every time I was introduced to someone new at school, and soon enough I was known solely as London by my peers and some of the faculty members. I was overwhelmed by everything. The attention, the way classes were taught, even lunch politics. I don't know about you all, but my school reminded me of the movie Mean Girls. Has anyone seen that movie before? Okay, so do you remember the scene where the main character, Caddy, walks into the cafeteria for the first time with her new friends? and they're breaking down the seating arrangements. So on one table, you've got the jocks, and then another table is the cheerleaders, the math nerds, the art geeks. Yeah, my school was just like that. I was overwhelmed by everything, and I started to feel like I did not belong and would never be able to fit in. So I wanted to go back to London. I remember complaining to my sister about everything and telling her that I hated my life in America and I really wanted to go back home. My sister sat me down and had an earnest talk with me. She told me that I needed to change my mindset because I was going into this new chapter of my life negatively, and I was comparing my old life in London to my new one here in Orlando. One of the things that she said during this conversation that has stuck with me to this day is that your thoughts shape your reality. So if you want to be happy here, you have to be open-minded, be optimistic, and try to make new friends. Like attracts like, so if you continue to think negatively, all you will attract is negativity. This conversation changed everything for me. I remember going up to my room afterwards and reflecting on my time at school. My sister was right, I wasn't embracing my new life. I was nice to everyone I encountered and was an A student, but I didn't try to build meaningful connections. There was a lack of reciprocity on my end. People were trying to get to know me, but I was not making an effort to get to know them because I was so closed off. The next day, I went to school with a new mentality. I decided that I was going to make friends and get more involved. I joined the school yearbook club and eventually joined the Student Government Association. I connected with some of the girls on my bus, and within weeks, I had a close-knit group of friends and a thriving social life. I'm happy to say that a lot of the friends that I made in high school are some of my closest friends today. Moving to the States as a teenager was a life lesson that no textbook or self-help book could ever prepare me for. I learned that my mind is very powerful and that my negative thoughts were influencing how I was feeling and behaving. I had to realize that just because something is different, it does not make it bad, and that's something that I still believe to this day. I now embrace change and I can pivot when needed. Florida helped to shape me into the woman that I am today, so for that, I am extremely grateful. So when someone asks me, do you like living in Florida? I say yes, I love living in Florida. Thank you.